In my opinion, this season, when it comes to the Texans' defensive line, and keep in mind, I said in my previous video about the linebackers that I'm going to bump in the edge rushers, even though they're, technically labeled as outside linebackers in our scheme. I'm going to lump them in with the defensive linemen. So, just a little FYI. Now, like I was saying, I feel like this season, the Texans' pass rush is going to be similar to the Ravens' pass rush last year. They didn't have a single guy that was like completely dominant, but they had a lot of guys contribute to their high sack numbers, their high pressure rates. And I feel like the Texans are going to take that same approach this year. Like, they're not going to have a J.J. Watt with 102,692 sacks in a season. This is just not going to happen. I just do not see it. But they're going to have multiple players with a good chunk of sacks, and they're going to add up. They're going to add up. That's the way I see it. I feel like the Texans have a lot of good, young pass rushers. Not great, but good enough to get a few sacks here and there sprinkled in throughout the season. Big sacks, important sacks. And I don't mind that one bit, because for the longest time, it's just been J.J. Watt. I'm the guy. I'm going to go get 16 plus sack a year. You can rely on me. Well, J.J. Watt, he's older now. He is injury prone. I hate to say it, but that's just the facts. And to expect J.J. Watt to come in here and bail us out each game when we need a sack, that's extremely unrealistic. So we need other players to step up, and honestly, I feel like our players will step up. So let's get to talking about this defensive line and my expectations for the Texans defensive line. Keep in mind, including the edge rushers. Like, this counts Merciless and them. Anyways, let's start off with J.J. Watt. And like I was saying, man, J.J. Watt, a step slower. I've been saying it like this whole offseason. He definitely looks a step slower. He misses sacks that he wouldn't have missed back then. And he's injury prone. So, could I see Watt playing 16 games? Yes. But here's the thing. I feel like Watt is going to be on a snap count. Or I think he should be on a snap count. Keep J.J. Watt fresh for January. I think that should be the goal for the season. In the past, when J.J. Watt plays, the dude plays like 99% of snaps. It's time to tone it down, man. Tone it down to 80. So whenever it's the fourth quarter, J.J. Watt isn't gassed out, breathing like Andy Reid after he gets up from the couch. We can't have J.J. Watt being gassed out in the fourth quarter. We can't have J.J. Watt being gassed out in the playoffs either. So reduce his snap count to like 80%, maybe 75%. Texans have a lot of young pass rushers that can not necessarily replace Watt, make up for it, but it's not going to hurt to throw in a Jacob Martin, Jonathan Grenard, or any other player like that in there, or Ross Blacklock. It's not going to hurt. So reduce Watt's snaps, keep him healthy throughout the year so he doesn't get gassed out towards the end. Now for J.J. Watt, and everybody loves sack numbers, so sack-wise, I see J.J. Watt having 10 sacks next season. Not anything too spectacular, but 10 sacks can definitely help. And I do see him being our leader in sacks next year. Even if 10 sacks isn't that much, 10 sacks is still more than anyone had last year for the Texans. Merciless, I think, led the team with like 7. So 10 sacks is still more than what any player had last year. So it's still a good chunk. And of course, J.J. Watt's still a very good run stopper as well, so you got that. Now, for the next guy, Whitney Merciless. Now, Whitney Merciless, him being, the guy, the go-to guy as a pass rusher, he can't do it. Like, he cannot do it. He's not that guy. Now, he can definitely be a good sidekick, and when he is playing the role as a sidekick, he does do pretty good. He sets the edge really, really well. I feel like that's one of the things that Merciless does very well that nobody really talks about. People always talk about the sacks, but with Merciless having J.J. Watt there all season, with Merciless having other guys like Ross Blacklock, Jacob Martin, Jonathan Grenard helping him out, I think Merciless is going to have somewhat of a similar season to last year, but like more spread out. Remember last year how he started the season, like the first 4 games with like 5.5 sacks and completely slowed down like the last 12 games of the season? Well, I feel like this year he's going to have 8 sacks, but they're not going to all come at the start of the season. They're going to be spread out. So between J.J. Watt and Whitney Merciless together, they're both going to have 18 sacks. And, like I said, Merciless, good run stopper, does his job, smart player. And he had 2 picks last year. One of them was lucky, but still though, I like it. Now, let's talk about our rookie, Ross Blacklock. Now, Ross Blacklock, he's an interior defensive lineman. He's a decent run stopper, but a better pass rusher. And I'm not expecting Ross Blacklock to come in here and completely be Chris Jones or Aaron Donald. That's extremely unrealistic. But I am expecting him to get like 4 sacks, but even more pressures. I expect him to help push the pocket and make life easier on our edge rushers. And I expect him to make life a living hell for quarterbacks. Now, obviously, early on in his career, his first year, he's not going to be as dominant, but I do feel like he's going to be able to do some damage. I feel like the Texans haven't had a guy like Ross Blacklock since we moved J.J. Watt to edge in 2015. So Ross Blacklock, I feel like he's going to get 4 sacks. He's going to do a decent job of stopping the run, and he's going to contribute to some more sacks because his ability is to get pressure from the inside. Now, here's a guy I feel like people are kind of sleeping on, and this is another interior defensive lineman, and that is Charles Omenihu. Charles Omenihu, he's an interior defensive lineman. Some people saying, oh, he's an edge rusher. He is not an edge rusher. Interior defensive lineman. He has extremely long arms. He can pass rush from the inside. You guys remember week 6 against the Chiefs? Charles Omenihu got a clutch strip sack on Patrick Mahomes towards the end of the first half, and the Texans ended up scoring and taking the lead, and I don't think they ever lost the league from there. So Charles Omenihu, he's been working really, really hard. He's been working with DeMarcus Ware, NFL legend DeMarcus Ware. So yeah, I feel like Charles Omenihu is going to have a really good season for the Texans. I see him getting 6 sacks from the interior of the defensive line, and I see him contributing more in the run game this year. Like I said, he's been working extremely hard. Charles Omenihu, he hasn't just only been playing Madden with me. He's been working really hard, and I feel like this season, you're going to see that. You're going to see Charles Omenihu take a step forward this year and get 6 sacks. So, between Ross Blacklock and Charles Omenihu from the interior of the defensive line, 10 sacks right there. I can easily see that. So, between J.J. Watt, Whitney Merciless, Ross Blacklock, and Charles Omenihu, they're getting you 28 sacks, which is almost as many as we had all last year. And then you got the other role players. You got Jacob Martin. Now, here's the thing about Jacob Martin, man. Jacob Martin, very good player. I like him, but I see him as a situational pass rusher. I do not see him being an every down player. Now, he is barely entering year 3, so I do think he's going to improve another year in the scheme as well, and I feel like Anthony Weaver is going to probably try to use him a little bit more than Romeo Crennel did. So I see Jacob Martin being used strictly as a situational pass rusher, and quite possibly even have him be used as a quarterback spy with his speed. I feel like he has the speed to keep up with guys like Lamar Jackson, Cam Newton, and stuff like that. So I do think he's going to have limited playing time due to his size and not being able to stop the run quite well. And it's he bulked up and added weight, which I don't know anything about that. But I see Jacob Martin having 5 sacks this year as a situational pass rusher, which in my opinion is very, very, very good as a guy who doesn't see significant playing time or a whole lot of playing time, 80+% of the snaps. Now the next guy, Jonathan Grenard. Now, Grenard, I see him being used somewhat similar to Jacob Martin now, at the start of the season. But I eventually see him overtaking Brendan Scarlett as a starter, like, mid-season, week 7, 8, 9, around there, week 10. I see him overtaking Brendan Scarlett, so I do think he's going to have more playing time than a Jacob Martin, but he is younger, and I feel like Jacob Martin is more polished as a pass rusher. But I do think Grenard's going to contribute somewhat. I have Grenard getting 3 sacks. Now, Grenard's a very smart player. He can set the edge as well. So having Grenard and Whitney Merciless as your edge setters, I think that would be fantastic, because when Brendan Scarlett is out there playing significant snaps, well, yeah, no, doesn't work. Doesn't work. They're able to run outside on us. And now another edge rusher, Duke Ejiofor. Now, Duke Ejiofor, I do think he makes a team, but with how many pass rushers, edge rushers that we have, I feel like he's not going to see much playing time. So I have him getting 1 sack in like the very, very, very little playing time that he will get. Probably a week 17 sack that he gets against the Titans when we're resting our starters, because we already clinched our playoff spot and the Titans had him. So yeah. Now, next guy, Brendan Scarlett. Like I said, Brendan Scarlett is probably going to end up being one of our starting linebackers to start the season. And I see him racking up 2 sacks. Nothing too spectacular. I mean, he's just another guy. Shouldn't be starting at all. Now, let's move on to our 2 tubbies on the inside. Angelo Blackson and Brandon Dunn. I've seen a lot of people say, cut Brandon Dunn, cut Angelo Blackson. No, you need your primary run-stopping defensive lineman. That's Angelo Blackson and Brandon Dunn. Brandon Dunn is your new nose tackle, and I feel like both of these guys are extremely underrated. Their job isn't to go rack up sacks, go get TFLs. Their job is to eat up blocks and let the linebackers, J.J. Watt, McKinney, Cunningham, clean everything else up. That is their job, and they do their job. You need players like Angelo Blackson and Brandon Dunn on your roster. Cheap players that understand their role and do their role quite well. Especially Brandon Dunn. Brandon Dunn isn't just some scrub. The dude's a pretty decent nose tackle. And keep in mind, nose tackles, they only play like about 55% of snaps. You're really going to pay a nose tackle like DJ Reader $14 million a year to play 56% of snaps? No! Makes no sense. So, you get cheap labor with Brandon Dunn. He does his job, understands his role, eats up blocks. And then you got another guy like Angelo Blackson, who plays the opposite defensive end spot on the inside, opposite J.J. Watt. He eats up blocks. He does his job. He can stop the run. Similar with Carlos Watkins, but not to a lesser extent because he hardly ever gets any playing time. But still, Brandon Dunn, Angelo Blackson, important players. You're not going to see them rack up sacks, but they'll probably get 3 sacks between both of them combined. These guys are not on the Texans to go rack up a bunch of sacks. They're here to stop the run, and they do that. Now, if the Timmy Jernigan deal hadn't fallen through, then obviously Timmy Jernigan would have been over Brandon Dunn and Angelo Blackson, or at least over Angelo Blackson. And Timmy Jernigan is definitely a player that can probably, bring in 5 sacks as well as stop the run pretty well. But unfortunately, that deal fell through. But we still got Angelo Blackson and Brandon Dunn. They're excellent role players that understand their job and do their job. People need to understand that you can't have superstars at every single position, man. You can't. That's why you have nice role players like Brandon Dunn, like Angelo Blackson. Even Jacob Martin's a role player. He's a good role player. Dylan Cole, role player. Good role player. You're supposed to have players like this. You can't build a 53-man roster with just superstars. There's a cap space. You got to fit these players in. You got to build your team best way possible. So you're going to need players like Blackson and Dunn. They stop the run well. But if you've been paying attention, overall, the Texans' defensive line and edge rushers, like I said, none of these guys, I expect no one to rack up crazy huge sack numbers, but I expect them all to contribute. And adding up, I had J.J. Watt at 10 sacks, Merciless at 8, Ross at 4, Charles at 6, Jacob Martin at 5, Grenard at 3, Ejiofor at 1, Scarlett at 2, Blackson at 2, Dunn at 1. All that adds up to more than 40, which is more than what we had last year. And keep in mind, this is just the defensive line. It's just the defensive line. That's it. Keep in mind, they're going to blitz McKinney every now and then. They're going to blitz Cunningham every now and then. They might blitz a corner. They might blitz a safety. So you could very well see the Texans getting over 50 sacks or near 50 sacks. I do feel like Anthony Weaver is the guy for this defensive line, or this defense in general as a whole. I feel like the Texans can be a team, a defense that can rack up sacks. The Ravens did it last year. They don't have a premier pass rusher. They have a lot of good role players, players that do their job. And I feel like the Texans are kind of built in a similar way this year. They have a lot of guys that can do their job. Now, do I have a concern with this team, or unit rather? Yes, J.J. Watt. If the Texans, if Anthony Weaver is still playing J.J. Watt at 100% of snaps, then it kind of ruins everything. Why? Because you're putting J.J. Watt in a situation where he can get hurt again. Less snaps, you reduce the amount of hits he takes. So, if you reduce the snaps, he'll probably stay healthier throughout the year. He'll be not gassed out in the fourth quarter. He'll be able to do stuff in the fourth quarter, and of course in January. We got to get J.J. Watt to January, because even though I said we don't need a premier pass rusher, J.J. Watt is still our best pass rusher. So get him to January. Now, like I was saying, if they play J.J. Watt 100% of snaps, you're taking away snaps from Ross Blacklock, Charles Omenihu, Jacob Martin, Jonathan Grenard. You're taking away snaps from pretty much every single player on this team. And we have a lot of good role players, man. You cannot do that. You can't do that. So, reduce Watt's snaps. You keep him healthy. You keep him from getting gassed. And you're giving your nice role players a chance to get some playing time, to make an impact as well, while you keep JJ fresh. That's really the only concern I have, because I love Ross Blacklock. I love Jacob Martin. I think Merciless, although he is average, like I said at the start of the video, he's a good sidekick. Shouldn't be the premier pass rusher, but with all the players that we have, he shouldn't have to be the premier pass rusher, because anyone can step up at any moment. Like I mentioned, the Charles Omenihu strip sack against, Patrick Mahomes. You had Jacob Martin getting a couple sacks against the Patriots in week, 13 last year? Crucial sacks. So, we have players that can step up. And it's been said that Anthony Weaver is going to run a more blitz-heavy system or plays. So you're going to have Benardrick McKinney blitzing up the middle and racking up 5 sacks, similar to how he did back in 2017, 2016 when he was a Pro Bowler. So, yeah, we have all these role players. I think we'll be fine. I think we have nice depth. Now, if J.J. Watt does get hurt, can we survive? We'll take a huge hit, but it won't be as bad as it was last year. I'll say that, because we have a lot of young players improving, as in Charles Omenihu, Jacob Martin. We added Ross Blacklock and Jonathan Grenard. So we have more people now. So will we survive? We can probably survive it. Will we take a huge hit? Yes, because it's J.J. Watt. But I do feel like we're better equipped this year to survive if Watt goes down. But my only concern is Anthony Weaver playing J.J. Watt 99% of the time. That's my only concern. Like I said, keep him healthy till the playoffs. Get him to the playoffs at 100% full health and watch him wreak havoc. That's all I'm asking for. Anyways, those are my thoughts on the Texans defensive line. I think they're going to be fine. I think as a whole, this defense, I don't think they're going to be spectacular. I don't. But I do think they're going to be way better than last year. Kind of middle of the pack. Middle of the pack. That's what I see. Like 16th ranked defense, 15th ranked defense. But yeah, those are just my thoughts. Comment down below your own thoughts on this Texans defensive line and edge rushers. And be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.